Hey everybody, welcome to No Breakaways, your source for all the Zwift racing tips and tricks. We're kicking off a new feature this week called Outside the Draft. Fun new feature we thought we'd do every single week where we kind of review the week in Zwift racing. I have a couple people with me, Jackie Godby.
Hello.
And Jordan Shane.
Hi.
So as we get started, maybe we'll do some introductions. We'll talk a little bit about who you guys are. So Jackie, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your background, and some of your successes.
Yeah, so hi everybody. I am Jackie Godby. I am a fourth year medical student at Northwestern University in Chicago, Illinois. I am also a former triathlete. I started triathlon almost 9 years ago now and transitioned into competing professionally in both Olympic distance and half iron distance racing. Earlier this year, when the pandemic hit, I transitioned to virtual racing because, you have that racing bug inside you and you're always hungering to go a little bit more. And that turned out to be a fantastic platform. And I had a lot of fun. I started with the Joe Martin stage race, where I took the Queen of the Mountain jersey in my first professional appearance, and went on to compete in several more stage races, just, as this sport developed. In December, I was privileged enough to be part of the inaugural UCI World Championships, where I took 5th place as part of Team USA.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, congrats on that 5th place. I know we did an interview earlier.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, and 2nd place, and one of the things we're going to talk about, the Tour de Boudica, right?
Yep. Just finished up Tour de Boudica this last weekend, where I took 1st in the time trial and 2nd overall. And you're right, we'll get to that later with some more analysis of the race and all of the different stages that went together to make it up.
Yeah, and also Jordan Shane, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'll be Jackie's less educated and less accomplished sidekick on the show. I've been a pro cyclist on the road for 6 seasons, Jelly Belly, and then Team Elevate in the last couple of years. I've done the Tour of California a couple times, Tour of Utah, the biggest races in North America. And this year I got on Zwift for the Zwift Racing League series in the fall because all of our races got canceled in North America. And made a big push for the Esports World Championship that Jackie was mentioning. My accelerated Zwift racing experience this year. I raced for Team Finesse Rockets, and we're in the Premier League now. So I'm in my first Premier League season, and I'm kind of obsessed with all things Zwift racing and Zwift in general.
Yeah, that kind of makes that makes 3 of us, I guess. And yeah, so my introduction, I guess, obviously I've been doing a lot of the No Breakaway stuff. I created the channel. I am I guess a high B rider on Zwift, so definitely the lowest of the 3 of us by a long ways. But yeah, so that's who I am. That's who we are. So yeah, before we get, I guess, started in everything, kind of the premise of the show was Jordan brought it to kind of the channel. He had a good idea for doing this every single week, and we really struggled with names for the show. Thankfully, we were able to come up with them, but yeah, I just came up with like the weekly Zwift racing show, which was pretty bad. Yeah, Jordan, do you remember some of the ones you were throwing around?
Yeah, well, I was just plagiarizing TV shows that are already in existence. So Outside the Draft is Outside the Lines from ESPN. We had Zwift Center, Sunday night Zwift Countdown, but also The Young and the Zwiftless, and Pardon My Draft, Zwifts of Our Lives. So I don't know why you picked this one. I thought those were strong.
Yeah,
Wheel of Zwift,
Yeah, The Young and the Zwiftless was really, I think, probably the number one.
Strongest. Well, we made our choice, so we'll stick with it now.
And Jackie was the absolute queen of the puns, and that we're going to use. We're going to figure out a segment to use one of these puns for sure. So Jackie, what were yours? I have them pulled up. So do you remember them?
I'm pulling them up now. No, I don't remember them. It's been a long week.
Yeah. So Jackie came up with #quad goals.
I like that. That's strong.
It is. These were really good. Yeah, so like erase the pain, like small E and then capital that one
It
we
took
got to
me a
use for
minute to
something.
get that one. When you said that was a pun, I was like, is it? Oh, it is.
Yeah, yeah. So that's gonna be I think we're gonna use that. We got to use like the young and the draft list as one of the. Those will be like your guys like segments that you guys do. I think. Yeah, profiles and power. I liked. Yeah, you said you had more though. Do you remember any of the other ones?
Oh God, no, no. That was done after a shift, and I was just like, I need things to make me giggle. So I just made this whole list of like, what cycling puns can I make right now?
I loved it. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, so kind of as we go here, we'll work on this format. We'll get better, and of course, we always welcome your comments, and we're going to do a segment at the end with live questions and all that. So yeah, just to kick it off, maybe we'll talk a little bit about the ZRL this week. It was on the Richmond Reverse course, which was a difficult course. I know. I'm racing in the Americas East B2 division. Jackie, I know you didn't race this week because you're working, but you will end up in the Premier League,
Yep,
right?
5 more weeks.
Five
Five
more
more weeks,
weeks.
and I get to return.
Awesome. And then if anybody watched the men's Premier League race, they saw Jordan with just a massive attack from what, like 2K to you got caught with like 500 meters.
4K. And
You
then,
went
yeah.
you went for that long?
Yeah, I went right after the sprint. It was kind of like a backup strategy if all else failed on the team because we had a sprinter, Joel Carroll, who is very good. He can sprint with the likes of Holden and the rest of them. But he it was a much harder course than advertised. So I think the pace was a little hot. He got dropped just on the second lap through, and then we had three guys in the front group, but I'm never going to sprint into the points in the top 30. Like, I don't have that, not even close. So that was my backup plan, was to attack after the sprint when it's already been hard. And I was hoping somebody would come with me, but nobody had a similar idea. So just ripped it for as long as I could. Came up a bit short, but TV time, hashtag TV time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I saw you on there. At first I've never seen you from the side, so I wasn't positive it was. But there it was. And you have to like grimace and kind of bounce up and down a little bit. Could you do that for us?
At 60 RPM, it's my net metronome.
Are you don't ride that low a cadence, do you?
When I was out of the, I did that attack sort of when no one came with me. I was like, I'm just gonna have to sit at 7.5 for as long as I can to push this gap out. And I was just out of the saddle, like 1, 2. It's probably like 70 RPM, but I can make my best power out of the saddle. So I eventually sat down more like 6.5, 7. But um, yeah, yeah, low cadence in general.
Um, yeah. So tell me a little bit about the race, Jordan. Like, I mean, how was it for you? Where was it?
Yeah.
Was it
Well,
bad?
so this is my first Premier League race. We kind of dominated our community league division and moved up for this one. And yeah, it was a shock to the system because that course is very technical. Like as technical as a Zwift race could be. The first two climbs are short and sharp, and it's all about positioning and momentum. And the second one, you come into it with speed in the pack, and then you go to 22% fairly rapidly. And so even your gear selection is important on that, so you don't get bogged down. And like I was kind of trying for the first KOM points, and I missed it. I came like sixth or something, but I went over near the front, and then the whole pack came through me for that second one, and I almost got dropped like 3 minutes into the race. It obviously I was climbing well enough to be there, but the momentum shifts at that pace are huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things we should note that I didn't realize, the Premier League scoring is totally different than the Community League. So,
Yes.
Community League points go 10 deep. We have fastest through, all that. In the Premier League, you don't, right?
It's just three, I think,
Yeah.
3.3, and yeah. So Yeah, it's a high risk, kind of high reward if you can get in the top three, but if you don't, it's a waste of energy. And yeah, it was only the first hill had the KOM points too. So yeah, overall the pace was just hot. I think a lot of teams just wanted to be at the front so they didn't get dropped. Like there's a lot of nerves there, so it's just a constant shuffle. Kind of found a rhythm on the second lap a little bit, but honestly, like the time above 7 watts a kilo was a lot in that race. And
Yeah.
maybe that's why when I attacked, I expected some response, and maybe it was like it had just been a hard race to that point, and everybody just needed to save that last sprint. But everybody said it was a sprinter's course because I think Richmond forward is
Yeah.
in general thought of to be sort of power rider sprint course, but this one was you had to be on your game to be a sprinter at the front of that one. So
So that's another interesting thing because for the at least in the B race that I was in, it was a sprinter's course. I mean, like, I mean, if you had a lot of power, you could make it to the end, but like the sprinters, we kind of say we the sprinters on my team kind of ruled the day in the lower division. Like,
yeah.
but you
Oh, and it ended up being a sprint in the men's, like a 60 rider sprint, but a few of the major names got dropped. And then if you look at the women's side, it was absolutely demolished. Like I think the front group is 15 riders, and it was just a constant, shuffle of riders out the back and trying to claw back. And the sprint was like a mess, like it was just the very last bits of energy on that one. So it was a challenging course. And you saw a couple of the big names on the women's side get dropped that were dominating season one. So
yeah. I
I think
saw
I mean,
Zwift just picked
for the
some more
women, it's
challenging
also
courses for season two.
yeah, for the women, I think it's also really important to note that this was actually the day after Tour de Boudica finished.
Right.
So a lot of the
oh,
people we saw, this was their fourth day of racing, and they were just absolutely demolished. And Curry actually, did really, really well in the Tour de Boudica. So I was astonished to see that she did, was just able to put out that power in those sprint numbers on her fourth day of racing.
yeah,
Right.
12.3, 15 second. That's nothing nothing to laugh at for sure. Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like Kolchinski was in the top group. A lot of really strong riders up there in the top group, and
Yeah.
of course, Hino dominated again. Saw, but it looked like they didn't do as quite as well as they did in the first season, where like we're taking every single.
And that
I
was
mean,
the story. That was the story of the men's is that Canyon dominated season one, and they were not. They didn't have a grip on the race like they did before at
Yeah,
all.
well, I think that's something really interesting is like Hino in season one was one of the first teams to put together a really cohesive team strategy. And so for those intermediate sprint points, you would see all three Hino riders take off the front and just create their own little breakaway only for the sprint. They were not trying for that whole thing. And so I think now as this sport matures, now as the league is maturing, we're seeing other teams begin to not only anticipate their moves and counter them, but develop strategies of their own. And I think that's really exciting to watch because now we're going to see higher and higher level racing.
I mean, something else that I noticed, and no, this is no disrespect to any of the teams that kind of got relegated or any of the teams in season one. I mean, I couldn't make any of the rosters for women, but like I think some of the community teams that came into the Premier League are very, very, very strong community teams. Like they're not messing around, and I think I mean I would bet some of that elevated the Premier League a little bit from season one. What do you both?
Yeah, I think we on the men's side we saw Restart was up for the preems and everything from the get go, from the first minute and a half of the race. So they were out to make an impact, and yeah, the quality is. I don't think you're going to see teams at the bottom of the Premier League in the men's side or the women's that are just getting 0 0 0 0 every week anymore. I think everybody's got a couple hitters.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we saw, this is a team of writer exchange. Writers are coming up, writers are learning the platform. I think we're going to continue to see like this very steady improvement in the overall quality of the fields, just as team strategies and figuring out the platform really pushes pushes everybody to do better in season one.
So
I think if you look at the course choice too, down the road we have a mountaintop finish on week 3. We have 3 times up the volcano, like a whole lot of lava course of the week 4. Yorkshire, we have a Libby Hill finish. I think that maybe contrary to your channel, Zwift wants some breakaways. For
I know.
this
We're gonna
season.
have to change the name to the Young and the Swift list.
Yeah, there you go for the whole channel. Copyright.
All right, so the community league, we have tons of points everywhere. And when they announced it, I was like, I don't know about this. But after seeing how the first week went, basically, even though like in Innsbruck, there's a mountaintop finish. So some of us, like me, are gonna get dropped on that KOM. But with the sprint, like, going through the sprint, there's 3 Innsbruck sprints before this mountaintop finish, right? So, and you can double up on those fastest through points. So, one person in theory could get 20, 15, 10 fastest through points and win all 3 sprints. So, what is that? Like, I mean, you end up with like 85 points or something. And then you just go slow up the KOM. So, I really like the strategy that Zwift has done because it also incentivizes people to really attack on the leg snapper and see if they can blast the race apart as well to get less people in the sprint. Do you wish the Premier League had done a sort of similar thing that maybe, I mean, kind of like you were saying in this first race, Jordan, it was like, some people got dropped off the back where maybe they could have got points on the first lap or, you wish they would have expanded those points in the Premier League as well?
Yeah, that's a different question. I mean, there's a lot going on in the Premier League. Like, I don't think sometimes for me going from community to Premier, like the delta in speed and how quickly things happen is a lot. And so I think it would be a challenge to have all that going on and sort of keep track of it. But I'm always for more animation in the race. So if we had it, I'd be for it. I think there's just having these courses with tougher finishes though where sprinters are not going to make it. Like for once, right? The sprinters are not going to make it this time. I think it'll make the middle of the race that much more exciting because these teams will have like the equivalent of designated hitters, where it's like your job is just to go get that sprint and then you're done. And we
Yeah.
haven't seen that. We haven't seen that yet. So I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah. What do you think on the women's side, Jackie? I mean, women's races are normally pretty animated anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least from the women's side, I don't think we've seen a lot of the designated sprinter waiting until the end. Like if you look at the power profiles of the women that keep winning, like, yeah, they are a little targeted towards sprint, but I think overall we see a very high level of, you see a pretty high power maintained through the race. And so it's the longer distance riders, the ones with more endurance that can sit at 80% of their max for the entire race and still sprint after that. And so I think there is a little bit of different dynamics. I know I'm definitely guilty of trying to drive the pace, trying to exhaust those sprinters, because I know like my exhausted sprint is going to be better than their exhausted sprint. But if we raced fresh, they'd kill me every time. So I think there's definitely a different dynamic there. And I'm very interested to see how these intermediate sprint points are going to break that up. Like, is it going to drive us to do more exhausted finishes? Or is it going to drive us to, actually rest between them as we fight for these points? And we're going to see lower overall powers, but more punch, more exchange.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited. So next week we have, well, in a couple days we have TTT at RGV. You can watch the preview video, and basically I ran it back from last time. What do you both think about this RGV course in terms of riding a team time trial on it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, like your video says. It's like net elevation is not very high on this course. The Aqueduct KOM is not a real climb where you're going to have to marshal the team to stay together that much. But the thing about this course is it's not like a Tempest Fugit TikTok type course where it's just flat. I don't think there's any real part of it where maybe the first 5K is like 0%. The rest of it is like +2, -3, +4, -4. So it's just rolling, and you don't lose that much momentum with that, but it is considerable. And if you're going to keep the tight line as people start to get tired, you're going to have to feather the throttle a lot more. um, within the team, and just even your exchanges, like you don't want to exchange at the crest and lose all that speed either. So I think pre-riding it with your team is a good option to sort of figure out how it actually rides and how it feels and how that resistance kind of changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. To tack onto what he said, I actually did get to do, a pre-ride practice TT with my team, and those rollers are very, very difficult. They're so short. There's no time to, mentally adjust and say, okay, this is where my gearing needs to be. So if you're dealing with really any difference in weight between riders, you have to be very, very cognizant of what the gradient is doing beneath you. And to add that focus onto the focus you need to have onto the power goals you have for that race, you're focusing on many, many things at the same time. And to add on to that, the difficulty of staying in the line is we saw a lot of new teams. We're seeing a lot of new riders added onto teams in these past weeks. So I think this course will be doubly interesting because we're going to see new riders riding together who maybe don't have the experience of all of season one behind them and are trying to learn on the fly. So this might be a very exciting race where we see teams split apart, like we did in London in season one.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't, I think the first TTT, everybody thinks they have the little extra wattage than they actually do. This course does not reward somebody who starts too hard because it's flat at the beginning, but then those rollers are going to crush you. Even if you're like a little bit in the red, it's going to be tough. So hold back. I always say that to all the athletes I coach and to myself every single time, like hold back a little bit. But I think this one you should.
Yeah. Well, good luck to all the racers in the Premier League tomorrow, and then everybody on Tuesday. It should be a fun one, and yeah, hopefully I'm able to hang on with my team the whole time. So moving into some of the community racing, really the focus of the show. We're going to cover a couple races this week. First up is the Tour de Oz. So Jordan, why don't you take us away?
Okay, so yeah, my rider and race of the week. I'm going to cover the bees and the men's bees. And Tour de Oz was a big 3-day stage race that came on the weekend. I guess it's based out of Australia, but the time zone seemed to work for a lot of riders in North America and in Asia as well. You saw the race started with 170 riders, which is huge. First stage was a time trial. Second stage was a sprinter type crit, the downtown crit course. And then the last one would be definitely the Queen stage, the Everything Bagel in New York. Is very hard course and probably one of my favorites on Zwift. So yeah, our rider of the week is going to come out of that. Hunter Hoskins of the US. He ended up prevailing on that course in the Everything Bagel. He won the time trial on day one. He came 10th in the sprint on day two. And if you look at his power profile on Zwift Power, he's definitely more of an all-arounder diesel type rider. So that makes sense. And I watched the entire third stage and I thought he did a really good job. The pace was on from the very beginning. You hit the first climb like 2K into that NYC course, the Everything Bagel. And there were a bunch of guys going off the front, maybe 8, 9 riders that were ahead of him the whole time, pushing, and over the top trying to split the group. And you never saw him at the front until the second climb, sort of that long glass road stair stepper with maybe 12K left in the race. That's where he used his power, and you saw a couple of flyers go off the front at ridiculous watt per kilo. He didn't follow those. He just ramped it up gradually and ended up getting away with one other rider and extending the gap and kind of carefully maintaining like a 15-second gap until the finish, and then tidy sprint, finished it up, won the stage, and won the overall of the race. So Hunter Hoskins, rider of the week. He's an experienced rider. I guess he started in August as Zwift racing. He's got 52 races. He's racing at the top of B now. He's had a really good last 6 weeks, lots of wins and second places in there. So he's clearly figured out the game. He's using his energy really well. If you look at the top 10 of that race, there's lots of riders that had similar watt per kilo in the 20 and the 5 and the 1 minute as him, but he ended up dropping them by a minute and winning the sprint. So good stuff. And I don't know, he might be headed to the A's pretty soon, dominating.
Yeah, congrats, Hunter. Yeah, you're one of the riders of the week, the inaugural riders of the week for the No Breakaways outside the draft show. So congratulations. Next up, we have Jackie is going to cover the Tour de Botica for us.
Yeah, so Tour de Botica, like Tour de Oz, was a big three-stage race this last weekend. It's part of the Warrior Games on Zwift, and very similar to the Tour de Oz. It started with a time trial, headed into a speed and circuit race with a lot of intermediate sprint points, and then finished with the Queen stage. Kind of giving somebody with every specialty, every discipline, a chance to show what they were worth. I actually also competed, so we have a little bit of video clips from my race, and then we'll talk about the people who won in every category and what really contributed to their success and where they succeeded most on every stage. So here we go, just a little clips from my race. Um, oh, there we go. So starting a TT, you're always nervous. You have a good 20, 30 minutes of just pain awaiting you. But I actually started out feeling pretty good. I would actually find out that I was feeling a little too good. But, I had rested, I had a good warm up, I had some chocolate right before the race. So I was exceeding the power numbers, really getting into that kind of VO2 max zone a little early, hitting 105% of my estimated power, uh, which was not the plan. And I would pay for it later, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. The faster you go, the faster you're off the course. So, yeah, as you can see, as it's aptly titled here, just went a little too hot early on, really hitting that orange zone. That's actually one of the features I love during Zwift racing is when you get that gray out and you're just kind of working too hard to focus on the individual numbers, do the math in your head. It gives you that color picture and say, yeah, you're in the orange zone. You are not going to be able to sustain this for 30 minutes an hour. And that was a really helpful graphic during this time. Helped me know that yeah, you are overcooking it. You're 5 minutes in. Maybe pull back from that a little. So by the time I got to the turnaround, as you can see, my numbers are coming back to yellow. My power numbers are going down. I've gotten into my head that this is a longer race than I thought, and I need to reel it back into something a little more sustainable. Uh, but here we are, about halfway. Everything hurts. I'm breathing very, very heavily. My goals right now are just keep the pedals turning over as consistently as I can. You can see my cadence is just below 90 right now, so really in my sweet spot. I don't have nearly the same high cadence that I would for a more sprinty race. I know I don't have to react to what's going on around me. I don't have to react to a sprint or a breakaway. This is all me. This is all my plan, and really just what I have control over. So this part of the race, we're going to see. Uh, this is when I start paying for how quickly I took it out. And you'll notice that I'm starting to do almost mini intervals where I will stand up in the saddle for 30 seconds, put out a little higher power. And these are visible as those bursts of orange on the bottom right hand side of the screen. And what I'm really doing here is acknowledging that I made a mistake early on. I went too far out and my muscles are exhausted. So I'm adding in mini intervals here just as sort of additional muscle recruitment to help that out. And then we get into a final surge. I can see the finish line. I know the end is here. I am seeing gray at this point. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to give that final surge and just recruit all of those muscles, sacrifice everything cardiovascular. I don't need it anymore. Whatever sugar's left, we're just going to essentially put it all to the wall and say, I don't need to last another minute. I've got 20 more seconds and then I can just collapse on the front of my bike. You can actually see my fiance poking his head in there and being like, okay, how much more do I have to listen to or just like be in pain here? And here we are. Here's the finishing arch, and that's it. Uh, yeah, and as you can see, I am done. I am out. That was everything I had for 25 minutes.
Yeah, so I had to cut this so that we could see her 5.1 watts per kilo for 25. That's unbelievably. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And
Thank
so
you.
and so yeah, I mean, so tell us, how did you finish on that stage? Leading question.
Yeah. So I was the winner for the team time trial stage, or for the time trial stage. It wasn't a team yet. And it was a course that really suited my background as a triathlete and my ability to just go long, hard, and straight in a single direction. I'm also a heavier rider, coming in at usually a little over 70 kilograms. So the flat course really benefits me because we're seeing the the speed is tipped more in favor of overall watts as opposed to a hill stage, which might favor watts per kilogram, and then I would suffer that advantage of having to haul, my frame up a 10% incline like you would on, for example, Alp to Zwift.
Yeah. Jordan, you are very good at TT. That's like your specialty, right?
Yeah, time trialing and climbing, like long climbs.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a lighter rider, so I don't have that pure absolute wattage that Jackie does. But yeah, steady state is where I'm happiest.
Okay. I thought so. I just, guess, I'm the only one of us bad at that stuff.
Who
Um,
has a sprint?
well,
Because I
I
don't.
would say that if my sprint wasn't also lower than both of you, I guess, just regular.
I mean, I think TTs are very interesting races to focus on because, like I said earlier, when we were talking about cadence, you're not anticipating the pack doing anything. It's a very individual race, and you can get in your zone, you can stick to your plan, and you can respond to what's happening to you. You don't really have to be cognizant of the world around you. And I think that's such an interesting niche because so much of bike racing really is reacting to the field, getting in their heads, trying to figure out if they're ready to break or if they're ready to make a breakaway.
Yeah. All right.
I,
You want to go through the people now, Jackie?
Yeah, yeah. So actually want to highlight the women that raced in the other categories of Tour de Botica. This is one of the biggest women's only races on Zwift. So just want to give a huge congratulations to Carrie Paul, who won the women's A category. She was also the only person to win both the time trial stage and the overall stage. And I just want to throw this out there. You can see her watts here. She has excellent sprint strength and endurance strength. So I just think that's a fantastic combination. And it really worked for her because she ended up with a 5-second lead after the time trial. And that was actually the key to her win because after all the sprint stages, she won with a 4-second time gap. So it was really that long initial stage that won it for her. And she just put in the work, did very, very smart races across all 3 days, and did a fantastic job. For a B category, we see Melanie Dobbins, and you'll see she's got a much better sprint. And that's really where she succeeded. She actually had a 17-second time gap to make up after that first day. And I mean, if you look at the sprint points she did on day 2 and day 3 between the hill climb and the full sprints, she just cleaned up sprint points. Like she dominated every sprint section. And like I said here, you can really see she's got that superior 15-second, 600 plus watt sprint. Um, and then we saw a very, very similar picture with our C category rider, Saskia Hop. Again, you see that very, very powerful 15 with a little more transition towards endurance at the 20 minutes. But again, she really, really dominated the race with the sprint points on the second 3 stages. So I think that's a very awesome feature of the Tour de Botica is we give, each type of rider a chance to shine and a chance to do their best. And then our D category, Sophia Westberg. Again, just look at that fantastic 15-second.
huge sprint. Huge sprint.
Just amazing. She got 40 seconds of bonus time across her sprints from the second 2 days. And it was just amazing. Like, so again, just giving somebody the opportunity to hang in the pack, race very, very smart races, and then unleash that power, particularly in the D category. I mean, these were incredible sprints. So absolutely respect to her. She did amazing.
I think that's so cool because just because you're in the D category doesn't mean you don't know how to race your bike. Like she obviously knows what she's doing to clean all those up. That's really cool.
Jackie, did we lose you? I think we may have lost Jackie for a second. So in the A plus category, Antonia Reznikov won the A category. I know Jackie said she won the TT stage, and Jackie probably wouldn't have mentioned it, but she only lost the race by 1 second to Antonia just at the line. So Antonia won quite a few of the sprints and a lot of those points. And then just for reference, here is Jackie's numbers. Yeah, again, Jackie can pretty much do everything. She is not messing around out there on the. Jackie, are you back?
No,
Not quite. So yeah, excellent performance by everyone in Tour de Boudica. We got you back, Jackie.
We're back. Sorry, my computer decided that it didn't want to deal with its battery anymore. So we had a very quick switch. Thank you for your patience.
No, we covered Antonia, and we were just on you, just kind of congratulating all the women in the Tour de Boudica.
Yeah, it was a very fun race, and I look forward to doing it next year.
Yeah, so thanks to the organizers. I think I read on Zwift Insider that it was an entirely women organized, run, broadcasted, everything race, which is super cool. And I know there were a lot of positive things said about the broadcast team. I heard they did wonderful. I didn't have time to do it. I was playing with my kids at the time. I meant to go back and watch it, but congratulations to everyone involved. What a wonderful event.
It was great viewing. I watched every stage, and I think Rick and I are in agreement that the women's racing on Zwift is far more exciting than the men's to watch. And this was just another example of that. So it was really good.
And I'll just shamelessly plug for all you people watching. This is a fantastic opportunity to try it out. There are 3 stages. You can figure out what your strengths are, and you're surrounded by women. So for all you women riders out there, we need a lot more women racing on Zwift. It's a fantastic opportunity to try.
So is there what's the next big event coming up that's women specific, Jackie? Do you know?
I do not know. That would probably require a 30-second hit on Google or hitting the women only filter on my Zwift app.
Oh, I didn't know there was a women only filter.
There is a women only filter.
Oh.
So while you're
missed it, Rick, come on.
Well, I mean, it's like I just look for events where maybe I'm better than them. No, I didn't. Yeah, one of the things I've heard, like we need like a Zwift calendar of what's happening in the next 2 months, because I never have any idea what is going on. So maybe if somebody knows something, please share it with us, or if either of you know something, share it.
It would be great if they put together like a world tour equivalent of all these larger stage races, so
Yeah.
you could look ahead. Like the Tour de Oz was obviously a decently big deal. Tour Boudica is, a next level deal, and it would be great to see all that. But we'll cover them as they come.
Yeah, for sure. And then so one of the next things we want to do, again highlighting the community, is talk a little bit to one of the teams every single week. We're gonna interview a community team. This week we picked one. Perhaps you've heard of them. It's Dirt. Jordan, do you want to give us a little intro before we go into it?
Sure. I got the opportunity to interview the Dirt Dads Inside Riding Trainers. That's what that stands for. They'll tell you all about it. But that was great. They're the biggest team on Zwift, so we got the biggest one done first. And we talked to the founding member on the men's side, and then the women's side, which is a big growth area for them. Mert, I think they're going to call that, Val, and she was awesome as well. So lots of interesting information and a very cool team.
Yeah. So again, we want to do this every week. So if you want your team to be interviewed, leave something in the comments. Like and subscribe, and let us know.
and there was really no play
Yeah.
either serious race teams or like the social group rides. So we were the try hard guys, but we were never getting past C's and B's. So we just kind of formed our own group, and that's been the evolution ever since.
Obviously that strikes a chord with like not just your own small group, that strikes a chord with a lot of Zwifters, based on that growth. And I guess the women's side, the same thing carries. Parents want to get the work done early, want to be competitive. Val, how's the women's side of dirt developing? Do we call it MERT or
Yes, I'm a MERT, a proud MERT. So my husband is a dirt member, and truly, when I joined Zwift, I wanted to also be part of a team. And he's like, become a MERT. And back then, it was kind of a newer thing, I would say. But it's been fun. It's grown. And every time I'm talking to women, if they're moms, I encourage them to join the team. And it's getting a lot bigger, and there's more MERTs out there. And we started getting, I know I lead my own ride. That's a MERT-led ride on Fridays. And I know there's another one on Thursdays with one of the gals, CC. So it's been fun to see the women growing, and we're also starting a team time trial group just for women as well. So it's fun to get women involved in that if they want to be on the racing side of things as well with Team Dirt. So.
Great. Well, and you just said, we were talking before this call, that you were racing in the Tour de Botica, which is obviously the top level of Zwift racing. So you range from beginners, and I expect on both sides probably from beginners to top level racers then, which is impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, that covers the values of the team pretty well. And if I was going to join the team today, I'm not a dad, so I can't, I guess. But one day I can look forward to that. What can I expect in terms of, I applied to be on the team, and then what kind of process is it, and what kind of welcome, and who do I find to ride with, and all that stuff.
So I guess that's also a benefit of being large, is that there's a place for everyone. I never really looked at it as a team, like as our team or their team or this versus someone else. I always looked at dirt as a community. Everyone is welcome to the community. We're dads, we're moms. If we win, if we lose, it's okay. I still gotta get out of the shower, go change a dirt diaper, yada yada. So my main focus in life isn't being a better cyclist, it's trying to be a better person. And I think that's sort of the culture we've created and what you can expect in the team, in the club, in the community. Like I said, I just want to briefly touch on, the genesis. And my personal experience with Zwift is that after kids, after getting married, I was not on a great track in life. I was gaining weight. Mentally, I was not there. It was like a shell of my former self. So when I found this game, it almost snapped me back. I immediately started losing weight. I immediately started becoming a better person. I was mentally more with it. I was a better husband. So this game really almost saved my life in that moment. And I wanted to extend that to other people. So if you want to race, if you want to just kind of, feel like you were 20 years ago, lose weight, get better mentally, I think that this is the community for you. And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to share, and I just wanted to help more people because it helped me so much, and I owe so much of where I am today to this video game.
How about the women's side? Like, how new is that? How new is MERT? And it's growing. You already have a couple of group rides going. You obviously have a team, at least at the top end. How's that going, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, I think it's growing too. I mean, every time we're in a group ride and I'm seeing women in there and women coming back week after week, I think, again, it's just, there's a ton of moms that I myself was a former marathoner, kind of similar to what Jason was saying, and that I was very competitive, and then I had kids, and that changed everything, right? So I think there is a subset of women out there that really do want that competitive side, and they want that group mentality. And truly, I think the unique thing with dirt too, it's just a supportive team. And it's so much fun. I mean, we've got a group ride every day of the week. And truly, I get a hard time if I'm not there. People call me out for sleeping in or whatever the case may be. But I think that's why we keep coming back. And I'll be honest, we're known for our terrible dad jokes. but I love it. Like that time flies by while I'm sitting there riding and I look up and I've just gone 30 miles, right? And so fitness wise, it's phenomenal and it's fun. And I think that's why the team is growing so much. So I hope for the future it just continues to grow. I hope we get more moms involved that feel comfortable there. I've heard people that have come from other teams and joined Dirt that they just feel, like I said before, it's a very supportive community. We're not super competitive with one another. Of course, there are the competitive A racers and all of that, but I just think it's evolving and you don't have to be a parent too. I want to put that out there. I know we've got a ton of grandparents that ride with us, and then there's dog parents and cat parents and people that have no parenting. Yes, you can be a dog parent. I mean, we'll take anybody. So I just think it's such a fun community, and hopefully I want the women's side to evolve because I think the more women get into it and they see how fun it is, and it's just neat to see you achieve your fitness goals together. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then, 3,000 members, it's a huge community. How do you tie that together? You have your group rides, you have a Facebook group, you have Discord channels. Like, how does everybody get together? I find people maybe that are near to my time zone, or, how does that aspect of it work?
I like to say it's organized chaos. Because obviously we're so big, we have probably 30 different Discord channels, and I have like a spider web on my wall of how everything is connected and how everything branches off. But I do pride myself in trying to get to know every single person. So I've either emailed or tried to contact all 3,500 people in the team. But like I said, we have team time trials. If you're an A rider and want a team time trial at 5 a.m. this time, we have the spot for you. If you're a C rider, you want to do the Zwift Race League, but at midnight your time, we have the spot for you. So there really is a place for everyone. Or if you're just a casual person who wants to chat and do dad jokes, you know where to find us also.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's important. It's breaking into the racing is one thing on Zwift and the events, and then getting onto a team and having like a Discord channel, and that just takes it not one level, like several levels up for people. And that's what cycling on the road is great for that reason, and cycling on Zwift is great. And so yeah, that's perfect. 30 Discord channels though.
It's crazy. There's one for women, so the guys are so great at whenever a woman joins any of the Discord channels, they always direct them to the women's one. And then once they're there, there's lots of flowers and girly emojis, and it becomes much more women driven. But yeah, so we've got that too. So we always get everyone paired up where they should be. So.
Probably fewer lame jokes, or maybe just better jokes.
Which I've thrown out my own jokes. It's fun. You just gotta join in, and I don't know. I think it's hilarious, personally.
That's great. Can I put you on the spot? Either of you for a dad joke right now? It's dirt. Come on.
I've got them in my phone. I save them.
We were trying a lot of vaccine jokes, but no one was laughing, but it was worth a shot.
That's
the
ultimate. That's what makes the dad joke, is that pause, right? That's
like, I don't really get it, but okay, now I get it.
Yeah, worth a shot. Got it. All right. Well, thanks for all of that. You know what you're doing, you know what you're all about, and now other people do too. And I think that's almost a universal appeal, what you guys have been chatting about. We're in peak Zwift season now. It's going crazy. Do you guys have any specific plugs? Where can we find you? Obviously, there's a million rides, but what are the big tentpole events we're looking at? Plug anything, everything. Let's go for
it. We do rides every day. We got Facebook, Discord. Like Val was saying, it's going to be what you make of it. So reach out to someone, get involved, rate if you want to race, whatever. There's a place for you. And like I said, it's a community. If you want to join our community and join a race team, that's totally fine. Try the vibes, whatever you like, find a spot for you. And they're guaranteed to be will be a place for you, and it will enhance your game experience.
Nice. So
I gotta give a plug for my own ride, if that's okay, just because I'm here. But if anyone wants to join Dirt Friday, that's the ride that I lead, and it's I guess I got to think for Eastern Standard, 6:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. but the Mertz lead that ride. And then one other thing too, I gotta throw out for Martin. One of the guys who started Badge Hunt. So if anyone wants to collect all the badges on Zwift, they do a ride on Saturday morning. So great way to get some extra XP and all those badges. So
just one more thing. Val, tell them what time it is. Local time that you lead your own ride.
4:45 a.m. We are early birds.
It would be that time here too, so I would say I'll see you there, but
See, the problem, my kids wake up at 6, so gotta be done in time for 6. So,
wow. But you're really heroes, you know. People say like, "Oh, you top end racers are so impressive," but that stuff is really the impressive part. So. And the whole thing is impressive stuff, bottom to top. So thanks very much for coming on and sharing. And I hope that anybody listening can reach out and join. It sounds like a good deal all the way around. Whether you're just starting or you want to take this thing to the next level.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for your time today.
Cheers.
All right, so that was our dirt interview. Jordan, great job with that. I loved the dad joke. I gotta say, I plan on using that many times. I think he really got it. Yeah, so
you're qualified.
I know. I can tell as many bad jokes as I want, as my kids be happy to tell you about. Yeah, so next up we got two more fairly short segments. One is going to be like our tip of the week sort of thing, and then we'll do any live questions if there are any. So tip of the week for this week, we're going to each talk about our one big thing for our indoor setup. So like that's the one thing you do that you're like, you don't want to give away your secrets, but what's your one big secret that you do that is like the best thing you do indoors? Jackie or Jordan, do either you want to go first?
I can go. I think we were talking about it, and Jackie mentioned it too in her time trial video. With the riding inside, you have the opportunity to use any cadence you want and get out of the saddle and shift the muscle groups around, even if you're going 50k an hour on the flat. Where aero would be a big consideration outdoors. I take the opportunity inside, like, you can stand out of the saddle and grind at 70 RPM, even if you're going really quickly on the flat, and not worry about the aero. Maybe Zwift will invent a sensor one of these days, but for now, switching up that cadence and using your entire body, it's underrated. A lot of people just sit and spin because they think they're on the flat and that's what they should do. But change it up, rip it up, and that's what I do.
Right, I like it. Jackie, how about you?
My tip is environmental control. So again, we're inside. We've got air conditioning. We've got fans. It's winter right now. We have been opening our windows to the Chicago winter and letting that all come in. For Worlds, we got our apartment down to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. It's miserable if you're not working out, but there's actually good data actually coming out of years and years of Boston Marathon data showing that 59 to low 60s is actually ideal for that sort of like body temperature regulation when you're working that hard. And we live in a modern era where we don't have to race outside at 103 degrees. We can make it however comfortable we want. So that's my big tip for training and racing both.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about this in advance what we were going to say, and I'm lucky that I switched mine because that was going to be mine. But so I switched mine, and I'm going to turn my camera, and this is like a big risk. But here's my big thing. So you see over there, I have all these gels and all this. I have gummy bears in there, and I have none and all this stuff. So plug for Jackie there. So my big thing is like, I just have everything that I eat on the bike, all that stuff, just sitting on the windowsill, ready. I never bonk because it's just like there. Like I have my bottles right down here, like filled up. I don't have to go get anything and bring it to my bike. And that's the one thing that I feel like I do. I mean, I'm lucky I have that windowsill there, which I also open the window and it's like freezing cold in here. So, but like the one thing where I'm like, it makes it so easy, especially when like sometimes I have to wake up before my kids wake up, get ready to go, just like I don't want to have to take the time like make a noise in the kitchen in case one of the kids wake up, and then I got to deal with that. So I could just come down here. I can have a gel or whatever gummy bears in the thing if they're there, and I'm good to go. That's my one big thing.
I do have to ask Rick. With being indoors and being able to watch Netflix, have you ever just had a bowl of popcorn on the windowsill and eaten that while watching Zwift and been like, I'm on a long ride today, might as well be entertained?
No.
If I had that, I would tip it and it would catch the fan and it would just, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so I don't know why. Like I can't watch Netflix. I'm on the so I was a runner for years. Like I ran in college and stuff, and I got so used to like when I work out, I can see what's happening in front of me. It's not like I'm just blind, but like I'd like turn my brain off. And so when I would
Yeah.
watch like a movie or something, it felt like it took forever. Like it was driving me crazy. Like I just couldn't do it. And like when I ride Zwift, even though it's just like a bunch of pixels moving around like this, like I'm able to just turn my brain off and it feels like it goes faster. This wasn't supposed to be the one weird thing about me part of the show. So no, yeah, I have my fan up there. It's like this gigantic industrial fan.
And now everyone knows you have a very fancy Italian bicycle for Zwift.
Yeah. My fancy 8-year-old 10-speed like rotor brake.
But style points. It's a cool bike.
It is a cool bike. It is a cool bike. You also know that my bar tape and my seat don't match, and none of them are black. And I wear short socks, which at least one of us on here, Jackie, me and you are with that. I'm glad. Jordan wears long socks on the trainer, I think.
Yeah, that's all the socks.
I've even done worse. I've done no socks and calf compression. It's like I want the compression, but socks are still a problem.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
And you said you were a triathlete. I would never guess that.
Yeah. I mean, the next step would just be going in my swimsuit and being like, all right, 60-mile ride, here we go.
That'd be hardcore. So the one I did a triathlon, right? My son was born like a couple weeks earlier, and then I did a triathlon. I was in decent running shape, and I didn't know anything about each transition took me like 3 minutes. Like I put socks on and then put my shoes on. Like I didn't know anything about what was going on. But my plan was to like do something with my swimsuit. I think I was planning to somehow change into bike shorts, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I just put the bike shorts on over the top of my swimsuit. And then I ended up running with a swimsuit and bike shorts on. It was, nice. Yeah.
Pictures, Rick. Pictures are a dozen.
I don't know. I wonder if I should see if I can find pictures, but I did run a 40-minute 10K back when I was in running shape with swimsuit and large, like not like, but like spandex biking shorts with the chamois and everything.
Oof.
But I was so far behind on the bike by that point. It was ridiculous. That was back when I used to be good at running and never bike.
And this segment is brought to you by chamois butter.
Yeah, right. Strikes. Yeah. So. All right. Well, I don't see any questions from any of the viewers, so we'll just wrap it up here. But Jordan, Jackie, thanks. We're going to be doing this every Sunday at 3:30 Central, so whatever that time that is for everybody else, for at least through the ZRL. If you want your team to be talked about on here, send me a message or put it in the comments. If you think you know a racer of the week, we're going to come out with a forum. I'll place that in the Zwift Racers forum on Facebook. So if you have a racer of the week, we're going to be taking submissions, and you got to let us know why. It doesn't have to be because they're a killer. It could be because it's their birthday. It could be because they won their first race. It could be because they did their first race. Who knows? So Jordan, Jackie, thanks a lot. And is there anything you guys want to say? Any endorsements or anything like that? I know you guys are actually sponsored by people.
No free ads. They'll have to pay for ads on this show.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you know what? I will actually shill, but I just want to shill for getting more women on Zwift racing. Definitely. Every race I sign up where there's a men's category and a women's category, men outnumber us. We can't let that stand. Try it out. There's a community. We're here to support you. And honestly, just getting on the bike and starting is the hardest thing. Like, let your own power take over from there.
Yeah, and if you want some Zwift racing tips and tricks, I know this really cool channel that does them. So, all right, with that, I'll shill for myself, and we'll see everybody